information.
Hey guys, thanks for doing this today. It's good to talk to you. My name is Chief Drake. It goes back to the derailment and days that followed. Knowing what we know now, what Oxyvinyl said to the NTSB, that they saw the potential cooling in the car. My question is not directed at you, but it's out of curiosity. Did you feel a pressure from Norfolk Southern to arrive at a decision to vent and burn, despite the fact that Oxyvinyl said the temperature in that car was cooling?
No, I did not. And let's get something straight. If Oxyvinyl felt that, and Oxyvinyl was sure, then they should have walked up and said something, which they did not. So they hid in the background, didn't say anything to anybody. So shame on them. Would I have changed what we did? No. Based on the information we had, the scene that we had, and looking at the safest way to handle that situation for the public, myself and the unified command, including the US EPA, the Ohio EPA, the governor's office, and every other entity that was there, decided that that controlled vent and burn was the safest thing to ensure the safety of the public.
Thank you.
Rapid SOS. All right, now I'm going to open the floor to any other questions. I'll call on you one by one. Your hands. Thank you.
This from WJW Cleveland. The campaign seems maybe directed to those who aren't, as Jerry said, familiar with East Palestine. But we do know that there are some residents of East Palestine who left and who have concerns and haven't come back. And Chief, I know you said, well, you know, this is a small percentage, so we're not. I don't want to make this seem like everybody in East Palestine is scared.
Right.
But we know that there are people who have left their homes and haven't come back. So how do you market the community to them to make them safe and feel comfortable coming back?
We're doing what we can to make them feel safe and comfortable. And I know a lot of that has to go back to testing. And I'm sure that there are a percentage of those, and I can't guarantee it, but my speculation is there are a percentage of those that don't believe the testing that's going on, that don't believe in the EPA, don't trust the EPA, don't trust those entities that are doing the testing. They're the subject matter experts. They're what the government has put in place to ensure this. You live in Cleveland, I assume, right?
Cleveland area.
Okay.
I'm actually from nearby here.
Okay, so Cleveland area. Do you use the water at your house out of your city water system?
Filtered. Yeah,
Do you shower?
absolutely.
Okay, so that your water in your home is tested on a regular basis, just as ours is, through an EPA-approved facility, just like everywhere else in the United States. Every one of you use water that is tested by this company. The people staying at the hotels that are afraid to come back are using water tested by the same facilities that are testing the water for here. So let's think about that. We don't trust them because of what happened here. And I get that. I feel for them. It's a mental trauma. I get it. Some of them are having medical issues, and I understand that, and I feel for them. And I hope that we can develop plans, which we are working on, to get medical testing for long term, to get treatment for long term. But the bottom line is, if you're anywhere else but here, you're trusting those stats, you're trusting that data. Just because the train derailed here. The EPA is not going to fictitiously make up numbers because it's just here. Those testing facilities are governed by the same company that's governing them here. I hope that we can make them feel better. I hope that we can give them the feeling that it's safe to come back to their homes. I would love everybody to come back. And I know that medical monitoring and testing is a concern, and we're working on that diligently. We really are. But that that takes time because there's a lot of parameters of that, and we don't want to do it wrong. We want to make sure it's right. But it's safe to be here. And, you know, a lot of these chemicals involved in this were sensitizers. Everybody reacts differently to things. Some people have allergies, peanuts, seafood, grass, bees. Some people are more sensitive to these chemicals that were involved in this than others. We're hoping that we can make it better for everyone. Does that answer your question, sir?
Can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, and with that, I moved here, and one of the questions that I was asked, was I afraid to move here? I was not. I trust those entities because I've been on the other side of the table. They don't play around when it comes to testing water. If there is a problem in our water, it's not going to be something that can be hidden. It will be public and everyone will know it. It is tested, as the chief alluded to, just like every other city, every other town, all the towns I've worked in. I mean, they don't play. I mean, it's serious, and if there was a problem, they'll shut it down. I mean, you'll know about it. And right now, there's no problem.
Thank you both.
Question revolving around testing. Right along East Taggart, all the buildings there's been concern expressed about a soil underneath the foundation. Will any of those buildings need to be torn down and the soil tested underneath?
So there's testing going on still. There's still ongoing testing down there. Those results aren't in, so I really can't speak to that, Tara. As of right now, I would say no, based on what I'm hearing. But again, I'm not doing the testing. You know, the EPA is overseeing that, as they should. And it's a long process, and quite frankly, it drives me insane how long it takes to get results back. I've been yelling about that to everybody that will listen. But in order to get stuff right, it has to be tested a certain way, and they're following the recommended parameters to do that. So once we have that data, we'll be able to answer that question better. But for now, all I can say is that testing is going on, and they're doing their best to make sure that those facilities and businesses are safe to operate.
Chief, you gave up the microphone. I was going to ask you one thing. We have heard from you, we've heard from other first responders over the last year, the issues you folks had the night of February 3rd going forward with communications. Not even just folks letting everybody know what was on those cars, but just being able to talk to each other. Yesterday, you know, a house exploded 2 counties to the north, and they had the exact same trouble. Fire departments couldn't communicate. Where are you folks in trying to get, and this is a statewide problem, get those problems resolved so that you are able to communicate better with your fellow firefighters and first responders?
Sure, and thanks, Jerry. And folks, this is where I get on my soapbox. Communication in the state of Ohio, let alone primarily Columbiana County, because that's where we're at, is horrible. It's a disgrace. New legislation, new bills just got passed at the state level for communication, for 911 systems. You know, everybody here pays a tax on their cell phone for the 911 system. Everybody is aware of that, right? You look at other states, predominantly, let's go Pennsylvania because they're so close. Pennsylvania is almost $2 for their tax to fund the 911 centers. The state of Ohio is 40. Let's think about that. And out of that 40 cents, Columbiana County gets a percentage of that. There's currently, if I'm correct, 5 PSAPs, which are 911 centers in Columbiana County. 5. None of us operate on the same frequency. The EMA director, Director Clark, Peggy Clark, has been pushing, along with all of us, to get a consolidated 911 center in this county to make that communication better. It all comes down to funding. Funding the 911 centers and the emergency services should be a top priority for any administration. People don't just pick up the phone and call 911 because they get bored. I can't say that, some do. But predominantly, when you dial those 3 numbers, that is the worst day of your life. That should be a priority. That centralized system should be in place. There should be a centralized frequency that we all use so that we all can communicate more effectively. We should be able to communicate with any county coming in, any state coming in. And that's a problem that needs addressed. The funding needs to be found somewhere to make this project go through. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
Hi there, Kate Joseph with 19 News up in Cleveland. I was just wondering, this is great that you guys have this plan in place, a new campaign. When you see yourself from a year from now, what does that look like? Are we going to see, more businesses? What exactly, for the city manager, would you ideally like to see a year from now in East Palestine?
Most economic development programs I've worked with in the past take time, but I would expect to see significant progress in a year. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 new businesses, at least 3 buildings in town, either torn down or rehabilitated. Now, those are kind of, I'm throwing big numbers, but I mean, it takes time for these things.
Thank you.
Just, I understand Norfolk Southern has obviously been put in the book for cleanup, but, a year in, do you think they should have had someone here today to also answer to what's being done to help them with this unfold?
No, this is about progress. This is about the future. We are taking some questions about the past, but we want to move on. We want to continue to have them be our partners, but this is us now. This is the village. We're starting new and fresh, and we appreciate their cleanup. They are the ones that caused the incident, so they should have fit the bill the whole time, like they have been doing. But this is about the future of East Palestine and moving on from this.
Question for both of you. EPA is basically saying we're seeing no signs of contamination. They're saying we're not suggesting there's a health risk. Yet independent testing for the past months and new testing has shown that there's high levels of carcinogens in the creeks. There's an environmental watchdog report here just yesterday came out.
Are they following the same standards that the EPA uses? Are they doing the same test and following the same qualitative standards?
I'm not a scientist, but my question is more about, do you feel that the EPA is being transparent with the town of East Palestine?
Absolutely. Without a doubt, unequivocally, 100% transparent.
Can I address that real quick?
So to add to what the chief just said, I mean, there are protocols for testing, and I'm not saying that these independent testers are doing it wrong, but we would need to see that. There are certain things that have to be done in order to make sure that that test is specific to what its purpose is, and those include some. You just can't take a vial and get water and sit in and go test. I mean, there's all kinds of things that go into that. Temperatures of the water. Different, making sure you don't get any foreign elements in it. So to address that, if an independent test came in that was negative, I would like to see their methods before I would make a conclusion.
But even their own testing, like there's been discussion. I think Deborah Shore testified that the dioxin testing happened in March here, but now through FOIA, we're understanding just today that there was dioxin testing in February that showed very high levels of dioxin near the train sites. So that's why there's distrust.
Well, wouldn't you expect higher levels near the train site right after the train burned?
Absolutely, but they never referenced that those existed.
Okay, but they're there. They're there now. I can't help that Deborah did not recognize that they were there, and she may not have had that information, and that's not us, that's them. I can tell you that the information that they give us on a daily basis is information that we use. Somebody missing one little step, I can't answer that on why she didn't say anything about February. There's been testing ongoing since the night of the derailment. Shortly after the derailment, testing has been going on. Both water, air, soil, all that's been going on.
Thank you.
I have a question for Keith. So after the derailment, it took like at least an hour for firefighters and emergency personnel to kind of know, what was in the cars that burned off. I know the Railway Safety Act had some amendments to, train emergency personnel for these types of situations. However, it's currently stalled. So does the fire department or emergency personnel have a plan to maybe just
train for that, or, you know, a protocol developing in the future in case something like this would happen again?
You just walked in, didn't you?
I did. Did you guys already go over that?
We did. But
Okay.
for you, yes, there are training protocols in place. We have updated our training protocols. We're pushing for more training to the point where we're pushing enough for training that we're building a training center in cooperation with Norfolk here in the village. But on top of that, as I alluded to earlier, Rapid SOS has partnered with Norfolk Southern. And again, I challenge all the other railroads, if you're listening, step up to the plate and do the same. That when a incident happens, that information will be to the first responders immediately, which is needed throughout.
Thank you guys for doing this. I'm really emotional for it in Pittsburgh. We heard from Chad about, you know, what your hopes for the village will look like in a year. Mayor, I'd ask you the same question. What's your hope that the village looks like maybe 5 years from now?
5 years from now would be, I think we would have a revitalized downtown by then. The school system has some plans up there for possibly a new building. Our training center is up and active. We have members of the first responder community from the East Coast coming here, training in our state-of-the-art center. A vibrant downtown. We're hoping to have people downtown that, to open some bars and restaurants and, try to get something like some of our neighborhood communities have. That's our end goal, is to have, we still want to keep our small town feel, but it would be nice to have some more development and stuff come in town.
I know Senator Vance is in East Palestine today, and I know he and Senator Brown have been working to pass the Railway Safety Act. Probably we expect anything for him to be talking about that. Do any of you have any thoughts about that act? Or just the way it's kind of being slowly rolled through Congress.
Yeah, it needs to be passed. The efforts that we have made over the last year should be, the key factor in that. I mean, just look what happened to our quiet little community, and it changed the whole dynamic of our town. And it could have done the same for 10 other towns, that same night. That it just happened to not happen to them. The lobbyists need to just, shut the hell up, and we need to get this through and get it passed. So, is it perfect? No. No bill is ever perfect that comes out of Washington, D.C., but it's a good start to help to get stuff going.
I'm going to add a little bit to that. Probably one of the things that they need to do is coordinate a little bit more with first responders to see what we feel on our side, safety-wise, they need to add into that bill. And I haven't received a single phone call yet from anybody.
Anybody else?
Probably have a question for the chief. You brought up how you have improvement in communication. There's also that training center that's being built. What do you think you've learned from this and responding to something like this? And what do you think other first responders have learned?
So I'll reference back to my recommendations I sent to the NTSB. First off, there needs to be improved training and training offered. This is primarily a volunteer department. I mean, I compensate my guys for their time, but we don't staff, so it's primarily volunteer. So, we have guys that work full-time jobs, that have families, that yet still volunteer their time and risk their lives to protect the citizens of this community. They need training. Getting them to that training and having that training available has always been an issue. This brought it to light. So one of the things that I would love to see the government do is, one, provide more funding for training. Two, I love the military. They protect us. I respect them with the utmost. There's bills in place that give the National Guard time to go training, a weekend a month, two weeks a year, and it's not held against them at their employer. Why are the volunteer firefighters not offered the same thing? My guys have to take vacation that they should be spending with their family to go take training to protect the citizens of this community. And it's they have to take time off of work, stuff's held against them at their employers. the volunteer fire service is a huge organization in this country. There needs to be a little bit more put forward for us to get the right training should something like this happen, or training in general. Communication is another big thing. That needs improved across the board. You know, and classes need offered. They need to be more available for people. Come get your mic, Scott. Go ahead. Sorry.
I can go with you, Stephen.
I know a senator is way more important than us.